Most people look at struggle as a sign that something has gone wrong, that life has turned against them, that fate has chosen to punish them. But that's an illusion. Struggle is not life's rejection of you. It's life's way of refining you. The storm doesn't arrive to destroy the sailor. It arrives to teach him how to command the waves. The truth is, if everything came easy, you would never develop the strength required to carry the weight of your own potential. Comfort doesn't forge character, chaos does. The very resistance you curse today might be the reason you stand taller tomorrow. When you're in pain, it's natural to ask, why me? But that question is born out of the assumption that pain is unfair. What if, instead, you saw pain as an invitation, a signal that something within you is ready to grow? Just as muscles tear before they strengthen, the mind, too, must be stretched beyond its limits before it expands. Struggle is the process of construction disguised as destruction. Life removes what you no longer need so it can build what you've always needed to become. The challenge, then, is not to avoid pain but to learn from it, to ask, what is this teaching me? Instead of why is this happening to me? Every form of progress is born through resistance. A seed must break before it grows. A diamond forms under pressure. A human being becomes wise only after facing loss, failure, and disappointment. Struggle is not an interruption in your life. It is your life. It's the training ground where courage is built, patience is refined, and purpose is discovered. When you endure something difficult, you are not being punished. You are being prepared for something greater, a role that demands more depth, strength, and understanding than you currently possess. And life, in its mysterious wisdom, will not promote you until you are ready to bear that responsibility. Those who rise above struggle are not those who never fall, but those who reinterpret their suffering. They begin to see life not as something that happens to them, but as something that happens for them. Every challenge becomes a classroom, every failure a lesson, every heartbreak a form of rebirth. You stop saying, I can't handle this, and start asking, what part of me must evolve to handle this? That shift, from resistance to acceptance, transforms pain into progress. It gives meaning to the chaos and turns wounds into wisdom. You realize that you are not being buried by struggle, you are being planted. In the end, struggle reveals who you truly are. It strips away everything false, everything weak, and everything temporary. It prepares you for the life you are destined to live, not the one you fantasized about, but the one you were built for. When you survive what once felt unbearable, you begin to see the quiet power of endurance. You understand that life was never punishing you. It was preparing you to carry more, love deeper, and rise higher. The world belongs not to the comfortable, but to those who endured their discomfort with courage. So, when struggle finds you, don't curse it. Face it because it's not your enemy. It's your preparation for greatness. Pain is not the enemy we imagine it to be. It is life's most honest messenger, a signal that something within us must change. Every time we feel pain, whether emotional or physical, life is trying to tell us something vital. You've reached the limit of what you currently are. Pain points to the areas where you've refused to grow, where you've settled into patterns of comfort and denial. It doesn't arrive to break you, it arrives to awaken you. When you run from pain, you run from the very process that would make you stronger. Growth begins at the edge of discomfort, and pain is the guide that leads you there. It is a strange paradox of existence that the experiences we fear the most often carry the greatest potential for transformation. The person who avoids pain also avoids depth. Without heartbreak, you would never understand love's true weight. Without failure, you would never grasp the importance of perseverance. Without loss, you would never realize the value of what remains. Pain takes what is superficial and replaces it with what is real. It humbles arrogance, softens cruelty, and teaches compassion. When you allow yourself to learn from suffering rather than resent it, pain stops being a punishment. It becomes a passage to wisdom. Every significant evolution of the human spirit is born in pain. It breaks down illusions, dismantles pride, and clears the ground for truth. When you're stripped of everything familiar, you're forced to confront what truly matters. Pain removes the unnecessary so that you can rediscover the essential. In those moments of despair, when you think you can't go on, that's where transformation quietly begins. Because growth is not an event, it's a process of shedding. Pain chisels away everything false until only your authentic self remains. The person who emerges from pain is not the same one who entered it. They are more grounded, more awake, and infinitely more human. Most people don't grow because they never learn to listen to their pain, they only try to escape it. We numb it with distractions, drown it with noise, and pretend it doesn't exist. But pain ignored is pain multiplied. It keeps returning, louder each time, until it's finally acknowledged. Growth demands stillness, the courage to sit with your discomfort and ask, what truth is this trying to show me? That question turns pain into wisdom. When you stop running, you begin to hear the lessons pain has been whispering all along. That strength is built in vulnerability, that healing requires honesty, and that becoming whole means embracing even the parts of yourself that hurt. If you look back at your life, you'll notice that your deepest pains shaped your greatest strengths. The moments that shattered you also redefined you. You became wiser not despite your pain, but because of it. Pain refines character the way fire refines gold, burning away impurities, leaving behind something purer, stronger, more radiant. So the next time life hurts, remember, this isn't the end of your story. It's the middle of your transformation. The teacher has simply returned not to punish, but to prepare you for a higher version of yourself. Pain is not your enemy. It is the silent sculptor of your soul, carving you into the person you were always meant to become. Modern life teaches us to chase happiness, but happiness is fleeting. It dissolves the moment reality strikes back. What we truly seek isn't happiness, but meaning. And meaning is not found in pleasure or ease. It's found in responsibility. When you take responsibility for something, your actions, your growth, your family, your community, life stops feeling random. You begin to see that your choices matter, that your existence has weight. Responsibility anchors you to purpose. It's the difference between wandering aimlessly and walking with direction. Without it, life becomes hollow, a string of empty moments that fade as quickly as they come. Responsibility demands courage because it asks you to face what is difficult, not what is convenient. It means looking at chaos in your life, your thoughts, your relationships, and saying, I will do what I can to make this better. That's not arrogance, that's maturity. Most people spend their lives avoiding burdens, believing that freedom lies in escape. But true freedom doesn't come from running away, it comes from standing firm. The person who carries responsibility willingly transforms suffering into strength. When you accept the weight of life on your shoulders, you discover that the burden itself begins to give you power, clarity, and meaning. Who you are is not defined by what you want, it's defined by what you're willing to take responsibility for. You become the person who shoulders the load others won't, who steps forward when it would be easier to step back. Responsibility shapes identity because it connects you to something larger than yourself. It teaches discipline, consistency, and purpose. It forces you to act with integrity even when no one is watching. You stop asking, what do I get from life? And start asking, what can I give to it? And that shift, from taking to giving, from expecting to creating, marks the birth of true maturity. Every act of genuine responsibility, caring for a child, building a dream, helping someone in pain, striving for truth, carries a sacred kind of meaning. It reminds you that you are not a spectator of existence, but a participant in its unfolding. Responsibility ties you to the web of life, making you accountable to something greater than your own desires. You realize that fulfillment doesn't come from doing whatever you want, but from doing what is right, even when it's hard. That's where real satisfaction lies, not in the ease of indulgence, but in the quiet pride of having done your part, of having carried something heavy and made the world slightly better because of it. When you begin to carry responsibility with humility and purpose, you are transformed. You stop being a victim of circumstance and become a creator of meaning. Life doesn't get easier, it becomes deeper. The very challenges that once felt unbearable now serve as proof of your strength. Responsibility doesn't just build character, it gives life coherence. It turns chaos into order, suffering into service, and existence into purpose. And in that transformation, you realize something profound, that the weight you once feared was never meant to crush you. It was meant to shape you into the kind of person capable of holding the world together, even when it falls apart. Life constantly places you at a crossroads between who you are and who you could become. Every thought, every decision, every reaction pushes you toward either stagnation or transformation. Stagnation feels safe. It promises comfort, predictability, and the illusion of control. Transformation, on the other hand, feels dangerous. It demands that you shed your old identity, confront your fears, and walk into uncertainty. But that uncertainty is where life truly happens. You either evolve or decay. There is no neutral ground. The human spirit cannot remain still. It is either growing or shrinking, rising or falling. The question is never whether you will change, but whether you will change willingly. Stagnation is seductive because it disguises itself as peace. You convince yourself that staying where you are protects you from failure, rejection, or pain. But over time, the comfort that once felt safe begins to rot from within. You start to feel restless, dull, disconnected, because life, by its very nature, is movement. The river that stops flowing becomes polluted. The mind that stops questioning becomes rigid. The person who stops growing begins to lose the very essence of being alive. Stagnation is a slow death, not of the body, but of the soul. It kills potential quietly, one excuse at a time. Transformation, in contrast, is painful, but it's sacred pain. It's the burning away of the old self to make space for something new. To transform means to admit that who you are is not yet who you need to be. It means facing the chaos you've been avoiding and turning it into order through discipline, courage, and self-honesty. Transformation is not about perfection, it's about progress. It's about walking into the unknown and trusting that growth lies beyond your fear. The process feels like destruction, but it's actually creation. The caterpillar must dissolve before it becomes the butterfly. And in the same way, you must be willing to let go of the version of yourself that can no longer carry you forward. Choosing transformation is not a one-time decision, it's a daily act of responsibility. Every morning, you must decide whether to repeat the same patterns or rise above them. Transformation demands effort. It requires reflection, discipline, and the willingness to face uncomfortable truths. It asks you to take ownership of your thoughts, your emotions, and your destiny. That's why many avoid it, because it's easier to stay asleep than to wake up and rebuild. But every step toward transformation, no matter how small, adds depth to your character and meaning to your existence. You start to realize that the cost of staying the same is far greater than the risk of change. The choice between stagnation and transformation is ultimately the choice between existing and living. Stagnation preserves comfort but kills purpose. Transformation demands pain but gives birth to meaning. When you choose to transform, you align yourself with life itself, because life is change, evolution, renewal. You stop fearing endings and start trusting beginnings. You understand that growth is not a destination, it's a lifelong journey of becoming. Every struggle becomes a stepping stone, every loss a lesson, every fear a frontier to conquer. And in that journey, you discover the deepest truth of all, that transformation is not about becoming someone else, it's about finally becoming who you were always meant to be. We often look at strong people and assume they were born that way, as if resilience were a gift, reserved for a chosen few. But that's an illusion. No one is born resilient. Every ounce of strength, every spark of endurance is forged through experience, suffering, and the refusal to give up. The people who seem unshakable are not those who have avoided hardship, but those who have faced it and decided to rise anyway. Resilience is not a personality trait. It's a choice repeated over and over, especially when everything inside you wants to quit. It's built in silence through struggle when no one is watching and no one is applauding. Resilience is a construction project built brick by brick from the lessons of pain, failure, and perseverance. Every time life knocks you down and you stand up again, you're not just surviving, you're rebuilding yourself stronger. Every disappointment becomes a training session for endurance. Every heartbreak teaches emotional elasticity. Every failure strengthens your capacity to begin again. You don't become resilient by escaping struggle. You become resilient by engaging with it, by learning to breathe through chaos instead of breaking under it. The more storms you face, the more unshakable your roots become. That's how resilience grows, not in the absence of difficulty, but because of it. Resilience doesn't come from emotion. It comes from discipline, the discipline to keep moving when your mind screams for rest, when hope seems lost, when the road disappears beneath your feet. It's not glamorous. It's built in the mundane moments of persistence, showing up to face what hurts, trying again after failure, believing again after disappointment. It's not about never falling. It's about learning how to rise with more clarity each time. That's why resilience feels so heavy, because it demands consistency, humility, and the courage to face your own weakness. It asks you to stop seeking comfort and start seeking strength. Resilient people don't have easier lives, they simply interpret pain differently. They don't see struggle as a punishment, they see it as an opportunity to expand. When something breaks inside them, they don't collapse into despair. They start rebuilding from the fragments. They understand that life's purpose isn't to protect you from pain, but to teach you how to grow through it. Every scar becomes a story of survival, every challenge a mirror reflecting your potential. Resilience transforms the human spirit from fragile to fierce, not by removing fear, but by teaching you to move forward in spite of it. It is the quiet strength that says, "I will not let this define me." Resilience, in its truest form, is not about never breaking. It's about becoming someone who knows how to rebuild. The strongest people are not those who have avoided despair, but those who have walked through it and come out wiser. Each fall teaches humility, each rise teaches faith. With every trial, you are being shaped, not destroyed, but sculpted into a vessel capable of carrying greater purpose. Resilience is not a shield from suffering. It is the skill of transforming suffering into strength. So when life pushes you to the ground, remember this is not the end. It's the workshop of your becoming. Every challenge you endure is life constructing a stronger version of you. And one day you'll look back and realize you weren't just surviving, you were being built.